Planet Vero Studio is powered by the Nolan Group of RE/MAX Associated Realty. MyNextHomeFinder.com.
Welcome to Treasure Coast Community Health. We have 8 locations to serve you better. Our staff is dedicated to help you and your family. Here's your host, Vicki Soule.
And hello there, and welcome to Community Conversations. You know, this month is just bouncing along, and it used to be so slow in the summertime. Haven't felt that yet, and thankfully, we are able to, therefore, recruit both people who have lived and worked in the area for a long time and bring other new things to the table. And so I'm so glad to be able to do that. I'm also glad to have a little personal time in this because we will be opening our 3rd pharmacy location located in Central Vero, so that those of you that live in the southern part of the county or the northern part of the county can continue using our pharmacies after seeing your doctor or dentist there. But for those that live more towards the central part of Vero or even up into Gifford and Wabasso, we're very, very pleased to be able to open up a 3rd location for your convenience. So that is the news of the day, and I hope you take advantage of it. As you know, we take care of a number of different types of individuals, from cradle to grave, as they say, but more importantly, everyone that needs our care can find it at Treasure Coast Community Health. We turn no one away. But we're able to do that not only because of a few small government grants, but because of the support of the community in partnership with all the people that we work with. And so we now have a new partner, at least in terms of bringing her to the table, Kelley Rowe. Wouldn't be my show if I didn't botch up something in a name. Kelley, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So your new business is?
It's Center IRC. We are an adult day training for individuals in Indian River County, 18 and older.
Okay. And how long have you been open?
Well, we opened our doors March 8th. It was a soft opening, but this past Saturday, the 5th, we had our large grand opening event. It was huge turnout. We had hundreds of people show up. And
congratulations.
Yes, we really felt the love.
That is fantastic. Mm-hmm. Now, you two have located in a more central Vero location. Where are you exactly?
We're actually in the Vero Bowl Plaza.
Okay.
On the south side, we kind of face Green Marlin. We've taken over 4 storefronts there.
That's wonderful. Very convenient off of US 1.
Very convenient for us to get to our community out. Yeah.
Now, this didn't happen overnight or even starting just in March. Give us a little bit of background, if you would.
Absolutely. So, I started my career as an elementary school teacher, exceptional education, and I really had an affinity for students with emotional behavioral disabilities. So I transitioned over to Wabasso School, and I developed and implemented the behavioral program there for kindergarten through 6th grade. And I saw a real gap in services for that transitional age, 18 to 22, where they're finished with their academics, but they're kind of getting ready for life. And I had an opportunity, we received a grant, and I had an opportunity to develop and implement the transition program there at Wabasso School. So, we worked on independent functioning, daily living, and employability skills. And we go out into the community, take them through supported employment, to job sites throughout the community. And the biggest question that I was asked by parents was, what's next? Because they're graduating at 22, but they're not ready for the workforce, or they're not
a little more time.
Right. They're not as independent as they wish. So it became a goal of mine in 2017 to open up an adult day training. We did have 2 in Indian River County. We had ARC and we had Goodwill.
Okay.
Since COVID, Goodwill has closed down, but there are 3,612 individuals in Indian River County with intellectual disabilities between 18 and 64.
That's a lot of folks.
There are a lot of folks, and just not a lot of services for them.
Now, the school system is required to continue working with those students until they're 22?
If they're exceptional education, yes, they continue through their 22nd birthday.
Okay, and just again, because I'm sort of a linear person, you talked about from a very young age until 6th grade, and then you kind of popped up to 18. The school system pretty much takes care of those middle school and high school kids then?
Correct.
Okay.
We don't have a lot of services outside of the school system for those individuals. The parents do sometimes seek services in other counties. We do have some behavioral services available, but their options are very limited.
Yes, they are. So there's another entrepreneurial opportunity if we have any other teachers or social workers that are out there. I would recommend that you talk with Kelley, and she'll pair you up after being in this community again for additional opportunities. So tell us a little bit more about your program. I'm assuming that's the proper word for it.
Yes. So again, we work on independent functioning, daily living, and employability skills. It was very important to me that we have 3 different program models. So we have an adaptive program model, and those are individuals who maybe have more physical impairments, either nonverbal or low verbal, low cognitive ability. So those individuals need 100% care for, changing, feeding, everything. So their biggest focus is communication and being able to communicate their basic needs. So that's the focus of, we'll say, academics for them.
Continued working with them so it doesn't fall only on the parents.
Correct, because it makes it very difficult. And then we have the practical program model, and those are individuals who have more of a behavioral need. So 80% or more of their day are focused on shaping and modifying behaviors. Those are individuals who have either self-injurious behaviors or physical aggression, verbal aggression. So we work on those still independent, functioning, daily living, employability, but
through more of a coping mechanism.
Correct.
And a reaction.
Right. And being able to develop social circles that are appropriate. Being able to work on those sensory needs that they have. So that's our focus with the practical program model. And then there's the comprehensive program model. And those are individuals who maybe have some cognitive disabilities, maybe need a little additional support. And then also in that, we are developing those social opportunities because, when COVID hit, we all felt it. But this population especially, because they didn't have friends calling, they didn't have video FaceTime and Zooming, and so they were very isolated for almost a year, and that causes a lot of mental health issues.
Absolutely. So are your program attendees pretty well divided in terms of 3 in this group, 4 in this group, 4 in that group? So
I'm licensed through Medicaid, and their ratio is determined by their independence or their need. So I do have individuals that are maybe 1 to 3 or 1 to 5, which means 1 staff member to 3, 1 staff member to 5, or 1 to 10. The majority is 1 to 10. However, those are not isolated. Those are, the individuals, it's an inclusionary model. So, I might have an individual, with significant needs, but they're still going to be included in the group. They're not going to be isolated.
That's wonderful.
That's how we develop those social opportunities.
Now, getting started with something like that had to be very challenging. Had you initially thought about being a nonprofit?
I actually did. So we sought, my husband and I sought startup grants, and it was very difficult to find those startup grants. So I decided to go the for-profit route, and I found 4 wonderful partners. It was very important to me that those partners have the same mission in mind, and that is to reach independence through support and empowerment, which is what RISE stands for. It wasn't just a business model for me. So I found some very, very good partners.
Well, we find in whatever challenge we have in life, if we continue to reach out, we do find others that are in that same kind of situation. And then the networking and the supporting of each other is very beneficial. So would it be appropriate for me to guess that some of those folks had been in sort of a supportive parental group prior to that, to your official
So I can tell you that I did meet them through my work at Wabasso School. So, I that community is a very tight-knit community. And, you know,
it's very challenging, particularly if it's your own child.
Absolutely. And you feel very isolated. You need to have, you know, parents need to have that connection.
So without it being a nonprofit then, you are Medicaid licensed.
Correct.
So will Medicaid help if these children or adults, they're not really children anymore, although we tend to think of kids as
our
kids.
own even,
yes,
you know,
exactly.
mine are, right. Mine,
So excuse my floundering
okay.
here. Will you have Medicaid being able to help pay for some of their care and treatment?
So I do bill Medicaid when they attend the program.
Okay. So
I am able to do that. And then I do have individuals who are still on the wait list because it's called Med Waiver. It's a separate entity from, you know, all under the umbrella of Medicaid. Right. Okay. And, you know, these families, they go on the wait list for 10 years and they're still not receiving services. So, so I do have families that also self-pay because they have to have something, you know, for their child or loved one, and they're on the wait list, and that's where they've been sitting for 10 years.
Well, there's a reason I ask, and that is because even in a small community where we're tightly connected, there's always people that say, I didn't know that, or geez, maybe that would work for, you know, my nephew or my neighbor's grandchild or whatever. So I'm trying to open that door, open our eyes to the fact that those resources, as scarce as they are for 3,600 people, do exist.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So if they were interested in learning more about your program, do you have a website? Or are you currently just a phone call away?
All of the above. Okay. So we have a website. It's risecenterirc.org. And that is kind of the who we are. Okay. And then we have a Facebook page that's showing what we're doing, because that's a little easier to update.
Yeah, it is.
So that's facebook.com/risecenterirc. And they can see, you know, some of the events and activities that are happening. We post our newsletter every week.
That's great.
You know, the different community outings that they've gone on. And
So we're going to take a short break, Kelley. And when we come back, we'll talk about your students and some of the things that you've probably already seen developing. Okay?
Perfect.
Riverside Theater presents Live in the Loop and the Comedy Zone. Live in the Loop Outdoor Grill and Bar offers outdoor dining with live music plus indoor dining with comedy in the Wax Lax this weekend. Strict CDC and state guidelines will be followed, including reduced public capacity and face mask use. Cleanliness and hygiene safety have been reinforced. Enjoy a thrilling evening with live music, uproarious adult stand-up comedy, and dining at Riverside Theater. For details and to obtain tickets, visit riversidetheater.com.
Stop the spread of eviction. If you are a landlord whose tenants are behind in their rent as a result of COVID-19, you may be eligible for rent reimbursement through the HART program. Funds are currently available. Please contact Florida Rural Legal Services at 877-HART-95, and you'll be connected with a pro bono attorney who specializes in housing matters. Avoid the expensive and lengthy eviction proceedings and help keep tenants in their homes. Call 877-432-7895.
Hello, this is Carol Jean Jordan, your tax collector here in Indian River County. All of our offices are scheduling appointments for in-office services, but you can get that little yellow sticker quicker by using our Express Lane. It's fast, convenient, and free when you pay with an e-check. Renew your registration on our website and select Pick Up at the Tax Collector's Office. Order before 3 p.m. and you can pick up your little yellow sticker on the same day. Order at irctax.com. That's irctax.com.
Treasure Coast Community Health is the only federally qualified health center in Indian River County. This means we have incredibly high standards of care and we waive Medicare deductibles. We serve our community with primary medical, dental, and behavioral health care. On-site pharmacies make TCCH your one-stop medical center. It's time to start returning to life. Spring into action with TCCH, a nonprofit. Get your COVID-19 vaccine and schedule your annual medical and dental appointments. Call us today.
And welcome back to Community Conversations. This is Vicki Soule, and I am delighted to have a new face here. Kelley Rowe is Rowe. Did I say it correctly? Okay. I'm always butchering names, and I'm so sorry. Kelley is with us because she has started a new business that is quite needed in our community, the RISE Center, which is in Central Vero. And tell us your mission.
Okay, my mission is for individuals to reach independence through support and empowerment. That's our mission.
Okay, so these are unusual individuals in that they are adults that have, for the most part, aged out of the school system,
Correct.
but continue to need supportive measures that the family needs to expand. Most family members of an exceptional student is not likely to have 3 or 4 people of the same needs at their home because there's usually 2 parents and you need a lot of adults,
right.
Correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So when we talked earlier, you said that you had 3 separate programs, but they're all intermingled in terms of group interactions and care.
Right.
Okay, so that, as I just said, to me, that's just mind-boggling. It takes a very special person to orchestrate that kind of thing, and probably, I'm guessing, some volunteers as well.
Absolutely. We love our volunteers. We've already had several step up since we've been open, but we're always looking for more,
And these are...
Takes a village.
Yeah, and these might be relatives or friends of people who have experience with kids or adults that have autism or Down syndrome or cerebral palsy.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Anything and everything.
Anything at varying exceptionalities. We don't, I hate the label.
Yeah, I do too. It's just people sometimes have difficulty understanding who exactly are you talking about?
I know. But we make sure that the label doesn't determine the program model that they're in because, it's the needs of the individual, not the needs of the disability kind of thing.
Exactly. And trying to help them reach their fullest potential.
Absolutely.
And is it a fair thing to say that sometimes it just takes more time and more patience?
Oh, it certainly does. And, then, like I said, through there are, I'll tell you, 543 of those individuals pre-COVID were seeking employment and couldn't find a job. So
of the 3,600.
Correct. So that's about, it's about 15%. So, we're looking for step 1, business partners that will accept our individuals and accept them for more than 1 day a week for 3 hours, which is what
is typical.
Very typical. And then step 2, I plan on opening 3 subsidiary businesses. Rise Custodial Services, so they'll offer custodial services to businesses in the area.
Okay.
And then Cases for a Cause, I've purchased a domain, so they'll sell cell phone cases and accessories online.
What a great idea.
Yes. And then a little bit up the road because of overhead, Serendipity Cafe, so it's counter service. So they'll prepare salads, sandwiches, pastries, and it'll be served at the counter. So it gives them a whole plethora of options for jobs, and we can kind of tailor the job to the individual, which is what they don't get in a typical workforce.
That's the truth. So I'm going to come back to the 3 hours, 1 day a week. How did that model come about? Is that because the perception was that's all the young adults could handle? Or the employer?
I think it's more about the employer.
Okay.
It's not so much what the young adults can handle. I think it's more about, the employer, and, they're trying to do what's right, by stepping up and offering these opportunities. But at the same time,
is there more supervision needed?
Well, probably maybe some check-ins would be needed. I don't think it needs constant. A lot of our guys don't need constant supervision, but some check-ins. Okay. Supported job coaches, that kind of thing, making their rounds. And then, like I said, tailoring the job to the individual, because sometimes they can't perform an entire job description. Right. Or they can perform this part and they can do it very well. So,
do you have an example? I was thinking of painting. Painting is a long process at our house.
Right. You were talking about house painting? Is that what you mean? So, yes. How about individuals that maybe don't do such a hot job with the cleanup, but if you're going to go with the painting part, but they can paint like it's nobody's business.
Mm-hmm.
So why couldn't, but then you'd find another individual who's really good at the paint ups, the cleanup portion. So why can't we pair those
right.
two together to complete that job, as long as it's within the same time frame, so that, I understand businesses can't lose money over that.
Right. So if you have a website, do you anticipate putting those skill sets, as it were? Johnny is ready to take a job as A, B, and C, very detail-oriented or very easygoing, or whatever his or her strength is.
For businesses to see. That's actually a very good idea. So I'm making mental notes now. Like I said,
I know you're very brand new at this. I'm just, from a business perspective, I'm trying to figure out if an employer was interested, how would the matching up happen?
So our plan actually is to go out to the businesses to try and make those partnerships and those connections.
Okay.
So that they know. I'll speak for when I just retired from Wabasso School, but one of my guys there, I had somebody that I knew said, "Hey, I have this position. Do you know anybody?" I said, "Perfect person." So he's currently working there. And again, Wabasso School is a separate day school. So these are individuals who cannot be successful on a gen ed campus. So if we can employ those individuals, there's no reason why.
That's wonderful. It truly is.
More of that.
So again, you have a website, you have a Facebook page. Both of them, I presume, has your phone number there.
Correct.
If they had additional questions.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share? We've got just a couple minutes left.
Well, I always love to share everything.
Okay.
So, I have had a lot of people asking how they can help. And, it's difficult because we're not a nonprofit. So it's not a tax write-off for people. But we are, like I said, looking for volunteers. We do have needs. We have an Amazon wish list. Our most current need is, our largest need is a wheelchair accessible bus, because we do have some individuals who would like to participate and join the program, but I can't get them there. So that's transportation's a real barrier for them.
Okay. So again, those of you in the listening audience, if you yourself or you know of someone that could help, again, helping is not just for one individual to take effect. It's really going to ripple through the whole community, and it's a wonderful feeling to be able to do that. Where's your Amazon wish list? Is that on Facebook or on Amazon under?
It's on
Rise
Amazon
Center?
under Rise Center IRC, or we do post it, share it on the Facebook page. You can also, on the website, there's Amazon wish list is on there, and there's also a Fundly page. So kind of like GoFundMe. Okay.
So how many kids do you, sorry, I did that again. I'm so sorry. They're not kids. They're adults that sometimes, like my regular adult children, act more like kids.
Right.
How many do you have enrolled now, and what's your capacity?
So currently we have, after our grand opening, I believe now we're up to 36. So
whoa!
I know it was, yes, it's been, there's such a need, you're thinking 3,600 individuals. So
congratulations.
Thank you. Our capacity, we could probably go up to about 100, because it is a large facility and we're not always there. Okay. They go out into the community on community outings. We have 3 vehicles now.
Okay.
So, they're always out.
But again, as in order to keep the costs affordable for parents and others that are helping to support these individuals, I'm assuming the more volunteers you have, the better.
Absolutely.
Okay? So if you find it in your heart to offer to drive the bus and you've got a good driving record, I would think that might be...
Certainly.
Okay. What other kinds of volunteer work do you do very quickly?
Okay. Well, community outings, that's a big one, because, sometimes it's like wrangling grasshoppers.
Yeah.
And
it's not every day of the week.
No,
okay.
It's not. Usually about 3 days a week. So those community opportunities are good.
Well, we really appreciate you being here, and I look forward to having you back, see how you're doing in 6 months to a year.
Yay.
And thank you so much for what you are doing for those special individuals in our community, Kelley. And thank you all for being present again this week with us. Every week is something new, something different, and I can't wait to be back next week with you. Please spread the word about the things that you hear It is for that purpose alone that we are here, to help enrich our community through that additional community. And have a great evening yourself.